Tell me how you check that the brakes are working before starting a journey.
Your brakes should not feel spongy or slack. Brakes should be tested as you set off. Your vehicle should not pull to one side.
Tell me where you'd find the information for the recommended tire pressures for this car, and how tire pressures should be checked.
You'd find the information in the manufacturer's guide and use a reliable pressure gauge. Check and adjust pressures when tires are cold. Don't forget your spare tire. Remember to refit the valve caps.
Tell me how you make sure your head restraint is correctly adjusted so it provides the best protection in the event of a crash.
The head restraint should be adjusted so the rigid part of the head restraint is at least as high as the eye or the top of the ears and as close to the back of the head as is comfortable. Note, some restraints might not be adjustable.
Tell me how you check the tires to ensure they have sufficient tread depth and their general condition is safe to use on the road.
No cuts and bulges in the side wall of the tire. 1.6 mm of tread depth across the central 3/4 breadth of the tire and around the entire outer circumference of the tire. The outer rim of a 20p piece is 1.6 mm and provides a simple guide.
Tell me how you check that the headlights and tail lights are working. You don't need to exit the vehicle.
Explain you'd operate the switch, turn on the ignition if necessary, then walk round the vehicle. As this is a tell me question, you don't need to physically check the lights.
Tell me how you know if there's a problem with your anti-lock braking system.
When you turn your ignition on, the anti-lock braking system light, ABS, will illuminate and then go off straight away. If the ABS light remains lit, then this indicates you may have an issue which will need resolving.
Tell me how you check the direction indicators are working. No need to exit the vehicle.
Explain you'd operate the switch and then walk round the vehicle. As this is a tell me question, you don't need to physically check the indicator lights.
Tell me how you check the brake lights are working on this car.
Explain that you'd operate the brake pedal, and either make use of reflections in windows or doors, or ask somebody to help.
Tell me how you check the power-assisted steering is working before starting a journey.
If the steering becomes heavy, the system may not be working properly. Before starting a journey, 2 simple checks can be made. Gentle pressure on the steering wheel, maintained while the engine is started, should result in slight but noticeable movement as the system begins to operate. Alternatively, turning the steering wheel just after moving off will give an immediate indication that the power assistance is functioning.
Tell me how you'd switch on the rear fog light, and explain when you'd use them. You don't need to exit the vehicle.
You would operate the switch, turn on dipped headlights and ignition if necessary. Rear fog lights should be turned on when visibility is less than 100 meters, and turned off when visibility exceeds this.
Tell me how you switch your headlight from dip to main beam, and explain how you'd know the main beam is on.
Operate switch, engine on if necessary. If the main beam is on, a blue light symbol will appear on the dashboard console.
Tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient oil.
First, you need to open up the bonnet by pulling the internal catch, then slide the secondary catch under the bonnet to release it. Finally, secure the bonnet in the open position. Identify the dipstick oil level indicator. Then describe this process to the examiner. Do not remove the dipstick. To check the oil level, pull the dipstick out, wipe off any oil with a cloth, replace the dipstick, then pull it out to show the bottom of the gauge has sufficient oil covering it.
Tell me how you check that the engine has sufficient engine coolant.
First, you need to open up the bonnet by pulling the internal catch, then slide the secondary catch under the bonnet to release it. Finally, secure the bonnet in the open position. Identify the coolant reservoir and tell the examiner that sufficient fluid should be visible between the maximum and minimum level.
Tell me how you check that you have a safe level of hydraulic brake fluid.
First, you need to open up the bonnet by pulling the internal catch, then slide the secondary catch under the bonnet to release it. Finally, secure the bonnet in the open position. Identify the brake fluid reservoir and tell the examiner that sufficient fluid should be visible between the maximum and minimum level.